Today we're talking about AI in the classroom, not the AI that makes Jesus statues out of shrimp and fools your bait-taking aunt. Please stop saying amen to these things. It's getting kind of creepy. But no, today we're talking about AI such as ChatGPT and Copilot that can generate text, audio, and visuals based on a simple prompt. Although the ability to generate these things on a simple prompt seems like a really cool thing. I mean, you get a lot of information, it seems good quality, but it does pose an educational and a moral hazard that we'll be talking about today. Today, I have lined up a few videos from teachers talking about their problems with AI in the classroom. And the first one I have, her name is Hannah. She was a former high school teacher of 3 years. She went on Fox News after her TikTok video went viral. So we'll take a look at her TikTok video on what she says there, and then what she said on the news, and we'll talk about it.
A lot of these kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have something read out loud to them. I just don't think these kids even care. They don't care about making a difference in the world. They don't care about how to have a resume. They don't care how to write a resume. They don't care how to write a cover letter because ChatGPT will just do it for them. And I think that we need to cut off technology from these kids, probably until they go to college.
It seems like to her, a lot of kids are just not caring. They don't really have a desire to learn the information being taught. And they have this perspective of like, why should I learn it if ChatGPT or a robot basically can do the job for me? So let's see what she told the news regarding her TikTok video.
Why did you post that video?
So I taught for 3 years, as I said in my video. I wasn't always a teacher. I actually started my career in digital marketing. I would say that in all of my teaching experience, technology has posed quite a challenge. And with AI becoming so accessible to children nowadays, especially teaching in an English or Core 4 classroom, it's been especially challenging kind of to have the kids comprehend and critical think and think for themselves on certain things. I do know that a lot of times in my English classroom, I would ask them to write down a short response or just 5 sentences to answer a question. And a lot of times it would be about 2.5 sentences and they would say, well, I can't think of anything else to say, or, well, why do I have to answer in complete sentences? Like, you get the point.
Is it promoting just a laziness among our children?
I suppose. And a lot of them are just feeling as though they don't really need to do the work anymore because AI will just do it for them.
I think that's a big perspective of a lot of the students who are using AI to cheat on their tests and on their essays. Is just, why should I learn the information if something else can do it for me? Unfortunately, the same students who have that perspective will one day be out in the workforce looking for a job. Their potential employer will ask them, why should I hire you when I can just have a robot take your job? So it's really, when you're at school, you should be learning how to make yourself indispensable, not replaceable.
Professional resume, athletic and special skills resume, and Dwight Schrute trivia.
I am ready to face any challenges that might be foolish enough to face me.
But I think it's a bigger problem than just laziness among youth. And our next video talks a little bit more about that. So let's take a listen.
A survey shows 92% of undergraduate students are using AI today, compared to 66% last year.
92%. Wow. That's overwhelming.
Our next guest is dealing with this firsthand.
So this is Steven Cicerelli, who is also a teacher and had also a tweet that went viral. He wrote, I just failed a student for submitting an AI-written research paper, and she sent me an obviously AI-written email apologizing, asking if there is anything else she can do to improve her grade. We are through the looking glass, folks. And now, are we just going to be communicating with each other through AI? We're not even going to have any kind of human experience anymore. When I think about applying for the job force, we have AI-written job board postings, and we have AI-generated resumes. I mean, where is the human touch? Where is the recruiter? Where is, it's much bigger than just in the educational sector, but that's where it begins.
Well, it was verbatim AI. You ran it through some sort of a device where you can check, right? How do you do that?
Well, with that particular paper, I knew it was AI because it was, it had real books that it was citing, but the page number, the quotes were not real, and the page numbers didn't.
So it's not always right. AI's not always right.
Basically, he talks about that it had like actual book titles in the paper, but the quotes were not from the book because he went and checked it and they were completely made up. So AI doesn't always get things right and will not only plagiarize, which is terrible enough, but it will pull information that may or may not be true. So you have to be very careful when you're using it, and you should use it as a tool and never as a replacement for a person's brain.
I do enough in-class writing with them where I get to know and I tell them on the first day that your writing is like a fingerprint. I get to know your writing really well by these in-class writings, so I can just usually sniff out when something's not them, and that usually sends me into detective mode after if I get a sense that things are off.
Sniff out. Should teachers be forced to sniff out students? Should they be forced to kind of sneakily be wary and constantly unsure if their students are cheating or not? That seems like such a bad relationship to have. And the last one we're going to listen to was put out a month ago by CBS News.
A growing number of college students are reportedly turning to artificial intelligence for help with their coursework. And now researchers are warning about the potential negative effects of relying on the technology.
Yes.
A study from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon published in February found, quote, higher confidence in generative AI is associated with less critical thinking. While higher self-confidence is associated with more critical thinking. The study is one of many that New York Magazine's Intelligencer features writer James Walsh references in his recent reporting with the headline, "Everyone is cheating their way through college." I'm going to give some examples of what students told you how they use it. Taking notes during class, devising study guides, practicing tests, summarizing novels and textbooks, so who needs Spark Notes anymore, drafting their essays, STEM students using it to sail through dense coding. Where do the students you spoke with draw the line when it comes to getting some harmless help versus plagiarism and cheating?
Exactly. Where does the AI stop and the human interaction and originality begin? Are we suddenly becoming a world? I mean, imagine this. If everyone everywhere started using AI to generate their text, and every billboard, book, sign, you name it, everything that you saw or hear was all AI generated, it would all be plagiarizing itself. There would be no original thoughts. Everything would sound bland. It would be repetitive. It would have no human creativity or touch. And that's a world that I don't want to live in. Suddenly we would have robots talking to each other and humans, I mean, what would happen to us?
Attention everyone, run for your lives! Robots have taken over the world! Our world!
Right, I guess the biggest problem they have sometimes is understanding where their work begins and ends and where AI's work begins and ends. Schools have sort of left it up to teachers to decide what's okay to use AI, when it's not okay to use AI, and how to use AI. And unfortunately, a lot of students sort of see those as guidelines, not really hard rules in terms of the honor code. So it's very easy for students to see all of their classmates using AI and think this is okay. This is a tool that I'm going to have access to the rest of my life. I might as well take advantage of it now.
This is my mindset, right? Imagine you have your brain. Your brain's in your head. We all know that. But imagine your brain weren't in your head. Your brain was sitting on a desk or somewhere around you. Somebody can just walk up, snatch that brain and walk away, right? Have all that information, everything you've learned, snatched, gone. You have no access to it anymore. You can't use it. Anything that is external to you can be taken away in a moment's notice. So if you are relying on anything external, you don't know if you'll have access to that for the rest of your life. But if you commit to memory these thoughts and ideas, and you learn how to critically process information, and you learn how to provide valuable feedback to the world, you will not only be a well-rounded individual, but that is something that can't so easily be taken away from you. That's something within yourself. So that's why it's so very important to learn the concepts and to do it yourself, because if you're relying on something, it can be taken away, and you're disadvantaging yourself from the opportunity to learn. Learning is an opportunity to grow and to become better people. But if you're relying on something external to you, poof, it can be gone. I know that it's kind of the age-old saying of like, oh, we're not going to be, there's not going to be a calculator in our back pocket for the rest of our life. And then suddenly cell phones emerged and everyone's like, oh, I don't need to learn math. I can just put it in a calculator. But then how many people, when their register, how many retail workers and fast food workers, when their register goes down and they have to actually think about the change to give back, they can't switch out of that mindset. They can't suddenly know how to do it. It's like lost to them because they were relying on something else to do those mental processes, and now they can't do it themselves. In the real world, we need to have real solutions and not disadvantage ourselves to these opportunities.
There's really no kind of short-term consequences, but of course, over time, the long-term consequences are you're not necessarily learning or engaging with the material. You're not reading the text.
I want to circle back to that in a second. I mean, it sort of is like the adage, if you can't beat them, join them. I mean, you're going to be left behind if everybody else is using AI and you're not. But what are teachers doing? I mean, how are they able to detect? Are they able to detect?
Teachers I spoke to sort of felt underwater. There are some methods to detect AI. There are some AI platforms out there.
There are certain tools that teachers can use to try to pick up on whether a paper has been AI generated. And it will look for certain, the way that it's written, but it's not foolproof. It's not 100% accurate. And it can lead to this kind of poor relationship between the student and the teacher, where the teacher is distrusting of the student and is constantly in fear of like, oh, is the student actually doing it? Is the student being really good, or is he relying on, just generating text? So sometimes what teachers will do is they'll ask students to use a Google document where the history can be tracked. So then they can look back when they receive the paper and see, was there a moment where there was no text and suddenly, boom, everything's been copy and pasted, an entire essay into Google form? Or has there been editing? Was it revised? Was there like one sentence, and it was revised throughout so that it looks like the student actually showed the work of writing the paper? But like I said, that's a whole lot to keep track of. And these teachers are already overwhelmed with so many responsibilities of just trying to grade these papers and then having this extra layer of now I have to worry if my students aren't doing things authentically.
But essentially, those tools are not perfect. They're far from perfect. And what this does is kind of creates a situation where you have professors who, in addition to teaching the material, need to become paranoid because they have to, build these cases against students.
They become paranoid. Yeah, they have to build cases against students. It's just ridiculous. Most technology is there to extend a human's ability or to improve a human's experience. But with AI, it's really there, if you use it the wrong way, it can replace you. It can replace the way that you think. Students can put in even the directions to their assignment and get a fully written essay instantaneously. And we have a world where instantaneous gratification is something we gravitate toward. We want, the next video. I'm sure a lot of you have already clicked off this video because it's not been interesting enough to hold your attention. So if you're here, congratulations. And I think it's laziness for sure. But I think there's another layer to this, and that is not having the confidence to do it ourselves. Believing that, oh, well, if I do it, I'm not going to get the good grade that I want. So I'm going to cheat to achieve that grade that I want. But let me tell you right now that cheating will never profit you in the long run because you're cheating yourself out of your education. It doesn't matter if you get a C or a B or whatever it is. If you did it yourself and you tried and you did your best, then you can feel good about what you've accomplished. And I think even parents, they need to realize that they're not external to their children's education. They need to be present. A teacher is not present in your student's life 100% of the time, but you should be as a parent. And so you should sit down with your children and say, hey, this is a tool and this is the way we can use it. But if you're using it in this way to replace what you should be doing, then you are cheating and it is morally wrong. So congratulate your students when they do what they're supposed to do, even if they don't get a perfect grade, because it's more important to do it yourself than to get a 100. Especially with writing, I was a writing major and I taught English grammar for 1 year. I believe that writing is immensely powerful and it can help us come up with so many creative ideas and different perspectives of how to look at something. Writers get to explore their ideas in greater depth by writing it out. And a program will never replace an original thinker. By using AI to generate essays, you are only stunting your own growth, stunting your own abilities, disadvantaging yourself. You need to have critical thinking skills. You need to be able to generate your own opinions based upon facts and evidence, or else whatever you're being fed through that AI is what's going to come out of you. And that's something that anybody else can do. But what can you specifically do that's going to add value to the world? You can. You have the ability. You have the opportunity. If you're in school, that's amazing. If you are a parent of a school-age child, that's amazing. You have great potential to influence this student to achieve great things, but they have to do it themselves. They cannot rely on anyone or anything else, and they can't blame anyone or anything else for their own choices and their own results. Humans aren't perfect, but you know what? I'm very happy to be human.